starting review for Chapter 1 for the big test, I'm going to start with Chapter 1.1. I'm going to start with the chapter summary on page 20. So you can turn to your book on page 20 and follow along with me. Chapter 1.1, in summary, any statistical study records data about some individuals. You're going to have to know this, so make sure you understand. People, animals, or things by giving value of one or more variables for each individual. Variables you're going to need to make sure you understand. Some variables, such as age and income, take numerical values. Others, such as occupation and sex, do not. Be sure the variables in a study really do tell you what you want to know. The most important fact about any statistical study is how the data were produced. Observational studies, make sure you know what an observational study is. Make sure you realize the differences. Try to gather information without disturbing the scene they are observing. There aren't going to be any changes to an observational study. Sometimes you can just do observational studies based on records of what's happening, like you can look back at statistics from baseball, and that's an observational study. Sample surveys. Okay, all of the different ways of getting data you're going to need to know and differentiate. Let's see, what else? A sample survey chooses a sample from a specific population and uses the sample to get information about the entire population. You're going to really need to understand the difference between the population and the sample. Okay, let's see, population. Sample. A census attempts to measure every individual, very important. And experiments, they are going to try to make a change to see what happens, to see how they respond, and that change is called a treatment. So also make sure you remember the word treatment. Okay, take a minute, read this over yourself and make sure you understand what each of those highlighted words means. I'm going to move on. The question numbers from the review packet that match up with Chapter 1.1 are 1, 2, 21, and 39, and I will go over those answers as soon as I just finish going over the major themes on the test right here. Please make sure, this is 1.1, please make sure you watch the videos for 1.2 and 1.3. 1.3 especially, it has all the percentage problems on it. You're going to need to know the differences between the different types of data collection. I went over that before. They're above, highlighted in yellow. You're going to need to understand and be able to differentiate between variables, individuals, samples, and populations. You're going to need to realize that personal evidence is not the same as looking at data on a large scale. I think out of the book, the example they used was that if you know a person that used their cell phone their whole lives and then they had brain cancer, is that a good way to assume just using that one individual that using cell phones is going to give you brain cancer? Please go back also and watch the videos from the test reviews from 1.1, 1.2, and 1.3 because those are going to have some good types of questions that are short response, not like the packet you have in your hand, which is all multiple choice. The test is going to be 4 pages, 2 pages of multiple choice, and 2 pages of short response. Let's see, I want to go over, after I give you the answers to 1, 2, 21, and 39, the short response practice question number 1.76, noisy snowmobiles, at the end of Chapter 1. I'll go back and find that for you, okay? So, questions 1, 2, 21, and 39. Let's see. All right, question 1, the monthly government sample survey that produces the unemployment rate and other data about employment and earnings is called the current population survey. The current population survey is probably going to be your answer for anything that's talking about employment data in the United States. Question 2, each month the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics appears before Congress. Her most recent testimony. Good morning, I am pleased to have this, obviously not the most for us, but before. I am pleased to have this opportunity to discuss the August employment and unemployment estimates that were released this morning. The unemployment rate at 4.2%, and I'm not even going to finish reading that. We already know that's going to be the current population survey because it's talking about employment data. So that's going to be A for question number 2. The next question, 21 and then 39. So 21 is on page of your packet 4. Question 21, a 300-point drop in the DJIA was a big drop when the DJIA was at 2,000, and a much smaller drop when it had reached 9,000. The percent by which stock prices fall is more meaningful measure. The lesson here is that rates are often more meaningful than counts. That's going to be the correct answer. Let's read through them. It is easy to make a mistake calculating the percent. Yes, it is, but that is not the lesson to be learned from this one. You have to be aware of round-off error. This has nothing to do with the round-off error. And the throwaway answer, there are lies, damn lies, and statistics. Obviously, answer is A. And 39 is the very last question in your packet, and it matches up with 1.1. Also, the government sample survey of 50,000 households each month that produces data on employment, earnings, and many other variables. Obviously, again, unemployment rates, things like that is going to be the current population survey. I guess this book really wants to make sure you understand where this data comes from. All right, so lastly, for Chapter 1.1 review, I want to go over that question 1.76. It's going to be at the end of Chapter 1 on page, let me find it here, 61. So if you want to do this with me, you are more than welcome to. Here's the question. 1.76, noisy snowmobiles. In spite of the study that predicted harmful environmental effects, the Bush administration lifted a ban on snowmobiles in 2 national parks in November 2002. The study predicted that air pollutants would be far higher with snowmobiles than with snow coaches that were currently being used. I don't know what a snow coach is. Noise from snowmobiles would be audible over half of the time in parks. So the first question is going to be very similar to one of the short response questions on the test. Was this an observational study or an experiment, and why? And I hope you guys realize this was an observational study. The reason is that no change or treatment was enacted to see the response. They didn't try out snowmobiles to see if there would be a response. They just did a study about it. So the answer to question A is definitely going to be observational study. What individuals were measured and what variables were recorded? Well, the individuals that they measured were, let me see here, you guys, I'm sorry.